Welcome back to the VET S.O.S podcast network. Remember, you do not have to drown in a sea of transition. Grab that VET S.O.S Lifeline. We're here to help. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, because this information today is sitting on the stoop. You're going to get the scoop of what we're talking about today. What we're talking about happens after the missing changes. Because for many veterans, service doesn't just shape what they do. It shapes who they are. And when the uniform comes off, a new journey begins. Sometimes that journey looks like transition. Other times it looks like rediscovery. But have you thought about what it actually looks like to this person right here? How about walking 5 million steps across America of one of the most unforgiving trails? Today's guest is Jason J. France, author of 5 Million Steps, hiking the Pacific Crest Trail after 3 decades of service to our nation. Jason took on a challenge that was far more than physical. 5 million steps sounds like a lot, right? But this is what I got from reading the book. To me, it was about purpose. It was about healing. It was about endurance. It was about identity, who you are now. It was about reflection, looking back. And it's about finding meaning beyond the uniform. So you ask who this conversation is for. It's for veterans that are transitioning. It's for anybody that's trying to transition. It's for every single leader searching for clarity and every person trying to figure out who they are after life changes direction. Because sometimes the longest journey a person takes is the one back to themselves. Because if you're ready, we're ready to dive in. My man, Jay, what's going on, brother? How we doing today?
Man, I am doing great. I appreciate you, Kings. Thanks for that wonderful intro. I've been excited about this and waiting for this since we started chatting. I'm ready to jump in, man. But first, I got to say thanks to you for all the passion that you pour into our brothers and sisters in uniform and those veterans. You're making a difference in lives, man. And it is an honor to be here with you today. And thanks to all the listeners that are either watching or tuning into this as well. I am fired up for this conversation, man. So whenever you're ready, bro, let's go.
Man, let's get it, Jay. Man, I appreciate you for coming on. So for our listeners and our viewers out there, I reached out to Jay on LinkedIn. I was like, hey, Jay, it seems like we have a couple of people that we're connected with. And I'm on this podcast called VET S.O.S. I have a channel on there that I share with veterans about transitioning. And he stopped the conversation. He said, what you need, brother? I said, man, I'd love to have you come on the show to talk about your book, 5 Million Steps. He said, where do I send the books? I was like, perfect. So, man, when I even got a signed copy. My man, Jay, he put a signed copy in here just so y'all can see. So this is mine. Y'all can get yours. And we're going to talk about where you can get it from. 5 Million Steps. But before we get to step 1, I know a little bit about Jay. What's the scoop on you so the listeners and the audience know before we get into this right here? Who is Jay?
Man, I'll tell you what, I am a proud husband, a proud father, enjoying life, man. An interesting journey to get to the Air Force, as we've all had. Grew up in Washington State, in a place called Whidbey Island. As we all have, a little bit of challenges, maybe some major challenges as a kiddo that shaped who I am today, that shaped me as an airman, that shaped me as a leader, that allowed me, I hope, to see things in others, to look at life a little bit differently through the lens of someone who struggled a bit and can recognize those struggles in others, to see those people that were the underdogs that maybe deserved a second or third chance, because I know I got a whole bunch of chances. So it was great to pay it forward. I was blessed to serve 31 years in our United States Air Force. Started as a K-9 troop security police way back in the day, and finished my career as the command senior enlisted leader of United States Transportation Command. Been with my wife for 24 years, have two incredible sons. One is 16, one is 21. And wow, we're out here in Illinois living life. As soon as I stepped off the stage, 2 weeks after that, I started my journey to fulfill a childhood dream and do all those things and many more that you talked about. Most of it, I had no idea what I was going to experience. I know we're going to talk about some of those things today, but walking from Mexico to Canada on the 2,650-mile Pacific Crest Trail, life changing experience, man. Don't want to give away too much of it. I want us to chat about those things that you want to go over. But that's me, man. Now I'm living the dream. A military relationship manager for Kaplan North America and Purdue Global, helping other people be the best versions of themselves. And I'm loving life, bro.
Man, I appreciate you, Jay. So, I always like to start off by I get the book. I always like to look at the front and the back, right? Before I get into the meat and the lettuce and the inside part of the sandwich. I see the military version of you, and I see the Trail J version of you.
Yeah,
But what I want to talk about is the front cover, because when you walk in Barnes and Nobles or you at the airport and you want to have a good read before you get on the plane. For me, this is how I look for books, right? I don't know if everybody do it, but I look at the cover first, right? I want to see what grabs my attention. And if I was to walk past this at the airport, say, man, 5 million steps. I already told you what steps I'm at. I'm at 4 million and something. And so
yeah.
I would have definitely pick up this, but I was like, man, let me see what Jason got to say. So how did you get to the cover? Like, what made you go with this cover right here? Because I know it's a
And
picture of something, but I'd like you to share. What's the scoop on the cover, Jay? What's the scoop on the
yeah.
cover?
So I don't share it in the book in there, but there's a chapter about being in the moment. And where I had lost sight, I was so focused on getting to a certain point on the trail that for a whole entire day almost, I was focusing on my feet, thinking about what's next. Well, to rewind a little bit, my grandmother, who was my person, man, she was the one that first inspired me to hike the Pacific Crest Trail when I was 8 years old. She was my world. And she passed away, of course, while I was in the Air Force. Well, while I was thinking about my need to slow down and be more in the moment while I was hiking the Pacific Crest Trail, I was about 800 miles into it. I went into a town and realized that I had just spent a whole entire day thinking about planning, wondering what I was going to do when I got into town, planning everything out to the minute almost. And I realized that, hey, you need to slow down. You need to pay attention. This is a once in a lifetime opportunity. Don't miss those moments. So the next day I went up, got back on the trail, and I had to hike. I guess it's about 8 miles to get back to the actual trail. I'd taken a side trail down to a town. And I go out to this beautiful spot, the spot that actually inspired that photo. But I still had a couple miles to get back to the actual Pacific Crest Trail. And I was like, man, what a beautiful view I have right here. But I got to get back to it. Well, I walk away, get back on the trail, and start walking towards the Pacific Crest Trail. And I was like, you know what? Let me just slow down, man. I'm going to go back there. I'm going to camp. I had an amazing night. Slept under the stars. We call it cowboy camping, where I didn't have the tent. There was no moon. The stars were amazing. I woke up to a beautiful sunrise. Brother, I looked over at my watch. I had lost track of the date. I knew what day it was. I look over at my watch. It was the 20th anniversary of my grandmother's passing.
Wow.
So I had this beautiful sunrise, thoughts of her, this cup of coffee. But if I wouldn't have been in the moment, if I would have got lost again and kept pushing to get those couple additional miles, I would have missed that moment. So when it was time to decide what cover photo I want, that cover photo is inspired by that moment I had in there. But I don't put that little detail in the book, but that's why I chose that cover there, because of that very meaningful moment in my journey.
I appreciate that. And, speaking with you earlier, you shared with the audience that you did over 3 decades.
Mhm.
in the military. So one of my first scoop questions, who are you when the uniform came off? Like after 3 decades, what was transition for you emotionally? Like for you, because I'm sure, for me, a little over 20 years, I was so, because I wanted to stay into the 3 decades, but as I shared, thing, but now you're coming up to, you know, you're at one of the major top commands, like only 11 in the Air Force, right? And you had one of the 11, right? So y- you know, you're there, and now it's time to transition because, like you said, you didn't start this trail until after you put up the chief master sergeant France, and now I'm Jay.
Yeah.
Now, because I remember in your book you say, I don't want to be, just call me Jay.
Hmm.
So what was that emotionally like for you when you was starting that transition phase?
And I'll tell you, it was a mix of emotions. No, I knew it was as everyone had told me, and this is different for everybody. You'll know when it's time, and I knew when it was time, and had a couple opportunities presented to me that I could have competed for. And at that point in my career, I just couldn't look at my wife and my sons and, hey, we're going to move again. Let's go. Things were great here. I felt good. Had a great boss that I finished my career with. Everything was great. And I was like, man, I could continue and I absolutely love it here. Or I could, potentially, continue serving in a different capacity. But it was just time. But to your point about that transition, one of the most important things to me and the most meaningful things to me about my Air Force journey is, and we chatted a little bit about it before, but I didn't have such a great upbringing. The Air Force was the first place I was ever told that I did a good job, that I ever truly felt I belong. The Air Force was the first place where I felt safe, where I had stability. And then 31 years later, I was like, wow, that went by quick. Well,
Right.
I had that. My wife and I both used our experiences, both the good and the challenging,
Mm.
to create the amazing family that we have now. So I had that stability, but it was still, have I given it everything that I could have? Is there unfinished business that I should attend to before I step away? All of those natural thoughts came through. And then stepping onto the trail, it happened so quickly and everything just went quiet. And I had this sense sometimes that, hey, I owe somebody something. I need to respond to somebody for something. But that quiet was very loud at first. But it took me a few weeks. And a few weeks later, I felt pretty darn good about it. Then it was time to allow that decompression and figure out what I wanted to do next, where I wanted to focus my passion, where I wanted to find fulfillment. Um, so it was, a journey of a lot of different things, brother. But I appreciate that question.
Wow. So I know a lot of emotions were coming
Hmm.
like, man, okay, my child, because in the book you talk about, when you was in school, you used to go to the lunchroom and sneak around and you know get those things. So I know sometimes like, man, I always wanted to walk this trail.
Hmm.
Now I'm gonna go and do it.
Yeah.
What was the emotional weight you was carrying before the trail? Because when you start off in the book, it's like it's a part in there where you said you went over the barbed wire, like to start on the Mexico side, right? To
Hmm.
like, hey, I started here. Like, how was that adrenaline rush? Like, man, this is about to be real. I'm about to go on here and I'm going with
Yeah.
my backpack. I'm going. I'm heading north.
Yeah. It was exciting, 100% to fulfill that childhood dream. But then early on, a few thoughts about like, hey, you've been thinking about this for 42 years.
Mm,
You got to savor every moment because this too is just like my career. This too is going to come to an end. And then, and I got a little bit focused on that, on the end and what that might feel like because I just I was still, working through those feelings and those thoughts of 31 years. And now I'm on this next journey and it's going to be shorter. I anticipated about 6 months. but I was like, wow, I've been waiting for this forever too. Man, what am I going to feel like at the end? Then what's the next big thing I want to do? So again, I kind of rolled back, and similar to folks that are transitioning from the military, regardless if they did 3 months or 3 decades, I had to
Right.
break it down. Okay, today I'm going to focus on this. I'm going to enjoy these moments. The end will come. I'm not going to focus on that because I might get consumed by it. So I just allowed those small steps, those day by day experiences. I cherished those as I went on. And it wasn't perfect. There were some times when I was thinking about, oh man, what am I going to do after this? Um, but the experience of going through those thoughts was helpful when it was time for me to step off the trail and figure out what was going to be next after the military and after that long journey.
So that long journey, the decision to walk is like, you know what? It's like choosing the impossible. Like you know what? I'm gonna choose because there's so many different trails, right? And that's why I had to do some research. Like, how many different trails? And you made mention of it in the book, but why the Pacific Coast Trail? Like, why that one specifically? What caused you to do it?
Yeah,
That
so growing
trail.
up in Washington, the Pacific Crest Trail, 500 miles, 508 miles of it is through Washington. And a little bit that I didn't share in there is some of the decisions behind it. So I had watched
Mm,
my wife. She's from Brooklyn, didn't grow up as an outdoor kiddo like I did. Um, but she supports it. She's absolutely wonderful. But when I thought about it, my wife and I, her being active duty as well, we were apart for each other or from each other for 6 years of our careers between deployments and training and TDYs and all of those things. And my sons at the time were 11 and 16, and I was like, man, what kind of guy steps away for 6 months, 2 weeks after his retirement ceremony, and says, "Yeah, see ya." So I was willing to
right.
compromise a little bit there because I didn't want to, throw that out. So I talked to my wife and I was like, "Hey, babe, I'm thinking about hiking the 500-mile Washington section of the PCT to finish where I started." To answer your question, coming from watching, and she kind of pulled my man card and she's like, "Hey, man, why aren't you doing the whole thing?" And I was like, "Oh, cool." She's like, "We got you." My sons were super excited about that. So that support that they gave me a huge boost of confidence. Just a great feeling to know that, yeah, I'm going to be away for a while. The hardest part of that trail was missing my family. But with any journey, comes those sacrifices you make to make it worth the journey. So although I miss them, they came and visited me halfway through. Um, they supported me the entire way. So I started in California and finished in Washington, where I started, and that's the whole reason why. And then, when I was 8 years old, like I said earlier, my grandmother, reading National Geographic magazine, encouraged me and inspired me to do it.
Wow.
Yeah,
And we talked about earlier, all you have to do is take that next step.
yeah,
That next step. When somebody say, "Hey, I'm gonna walk 5 million steps."
hmm
When I told somebody, "Hey, I'm gonna lose over 100 pounds," they like, "Man, get out of here. You ain't man." All it is a pound. If I do a pound a week, that's 100 weeks.
yeah,
That's about 2 years.
yeah,
But when you say that big number, like, when somebody read 5 million steps, like, what did that represent to you? Like, was this bigger than just hiking? Because I know you said that after a week, he's like, "Hey, I'm going to walk the trail." Like, was it like, "Hey, I got to find that young Jay again. I got to
yeah.
find, my granny said, you know what? You know what I'm saying? Like, what did that mean to you? Like, man, I'm going to choose the PCT and I'm going to walk it. And I'm gonna stay on there until I get there, regardless rain,
hmm
sleet, snow, heat, critters,
hmm Oh yeah.
meeting people, not meeting people, lonely walks and talks. Was this bigger than just hiking to you?
100%. Towards the end of my career, I became regardless of my desire and regardless of the effort I put into things, I became my position. And I understood and I loved the opportunity in some of those positions to, share that influence, share that network I had to help others. Um, but for me, anyway, towards the end, there was a bit of a struggle with, I'm more than just the chief. I'm more than
Right.
just Signia. I'm more than just, the title on the email or, the sign outside the office. Um, I wanted to get back to who I was. All
Mm,
those other things that were unknown to most people that made me the chief that I was, that made me that passionate leader that just wanted to help everybody, that would do just about anything when somebody presented a challenge to me or something that they needed help on. It was time not in a selfish way, but to do something for myself,
mm,
in which I hadn't done for a long time, something big, and to figure out, okay, I am stripped of that position. I'm stripped of the uniform. Who am I really now? Because 31 years in the service, of course, will change you in countless different ways. So I needed to figure out, hey, what am I passionate about? It used to be airmen. I mean, it still is, but that used to be my primary focus. What can I do now? And how can I focus that passion I have for serving others and helping others and connecting with others? So a lot of different things going on through my mind when I stepped. Yeah.
wow. And for the ones who just tuning in, we speaking to the author of 5 Million Steps, my man Jay, and he's talking about his journey of the 5 million. Right? We got to talk about how to get a copy. But we're doing a deep dive from Jason's perspective, and I reached out to him, and I was like, before we hit the record button, I was like, you know what? I see myself in your book, and I shared my story with you. Like, man, how I thought I was just going through this life journey by myself, but when I
Mhm.
seen others, right? Because you talk about it in your book, like your backpack is your backpack.
Uh-huh.
Don't worry about somebody else's backpack. It could be two people on the same trail, eating the same food, walking the same steps, but have different experiences.
Yeah. We call it hike your own hike.
Hike your own hike. And you have that in quotations in the book. Hike your own hike. So, did you ever get to that mindset of hike your own hike when fear tried to step in and stop you? How did you push through?
It was comparisons. Wow. Is, what we're talking about here with hike your own hike. Um, how did I get through? I think, in some of my hardest days and some of the hardest sections of the trail or in just life's journey
Mhm,
is sometimes we look for something to distract us, something to go to, a device, um, you know, uh, TV, food. Some people use substances, those things. And out on the trail, I learned there's nothing there.
mhm,
And I was, not forced because there was no one forcing me, but I had no choice but to continue to move both literally and figuratively to move forward, take one more step, take one more step. And what I learned was with no distractions, sometimes the best path through our challenges in life is straight through.
straight through.
To
Yeah.
endure the difficulty of going through something, to realize at the end that you are better for that experience, you are better for that challenge, you are better for sitting in your stuff rather than trying so hard to avoid it. Now, on the trail, again, the trail is linear. I have nowhere else to go. I have nothing to distract me. I have no cell reception. All I have is what
Mhm,
I'm carrying on my back. All I can do is continue to move forward. And I learned a lot through doing that as I reflected on those mental health struggles that I talk about in the book. When I reflected on the good things, on being a father, being a husband, being a good wingman, being a teammate. it's not just the challenging things, but also the freedom from distractions allows us to focus on those great things in life that sometimes we're too distracted to see,
Mm,
or we're too busy to realize how important they are to us, you know?
right. And when I was reading through the book, just going in, I was like, wow, the mental and physical battle.
Mhm.
And I was thinking when I was reading, I was like, wow, this trail reveals everything. Like
Yeah.
you don't like when I walk 2 miles, I'm thinking like, man, that's long. But when you said that you walked, five on 500 miles, you're like that. What was the hardest day on on the trail? Was it the first day? Was it day five? I know at one point you say I was, 5 days I ran out of clothes. I'm trying to find a place to stay, and I go to get me some water and a soda, and the lady, I'm holding the door open. Somebody think, it's what almost broke you on that trail? Because I know when I read it, I'm like, wow, the trail reveals everything, right? You got
Oh,
your
yeah.
nickname, you got your hiking name, and you met some other hikers, and and they share like, well, hey, that's what this really means. You're like, okay, well, let me go back to the original name. But
Mhm.
yeah, what was the hardest day on the trail?
Hardest day was, I don't remember the date, but it was in July. So I started on April 18th in
Hmm.
2021, and I finished on September 10th of 2021. Um, it was shortly after after Independence Day. So my family came to meet me in South Lake Tahoe, and I had just finished the Sierra section. The mountain section is what we call it of the trail. It's just beautiful, amazing views. I finished that on a high. Got to spend 5 days with my family. I came off trail and we enjoyed South Lake Tahoe, and it was great. But like I said before, the hardest part for me was missing my family. So it was tough moving back. They dropped me off on the trail. I could look down as I'm hiking, look at
Mm,
the parking lot, see them drive away. And that was the beginning of just a chain of events that really beat me up. So was missing them. That same day, I climb over a hill and I see an airplane fly by, and there were fires that were starting, forest fires. And I
wow.
see a couple smoke jumpers jump out to put out a small fire. And I was like, okay, cool. I knew that forest fires were a threat, something I was going to have to contend with, but I didn't realize the impact that those would have on me. And combined missing my family, I was trapped in a heat wave. Hottest I hiked in was 109 degrees.
Wow.
It was just miserable. Then I come around a corner a couple days later and I look off in the distance and there's this enormous forest fire in the direction I'm walking. So I'm walking on this ridge along the mountain and I see off in the distance this huge fire and it keeps growing. And I'm
Yeah.
watching firefighting aircraft coming down and trying to control this, and nothing is controlling that. And I realized for the first time in my life that I was afraid of fire and wasn't able to sleep. A lot of things going through my mind, and it brought back memories of combat experiences in Afghanistan and Iraq, and 4 deployments to Afghanistan, 3 to Iraq, and a lot of those memories that I had tried for many years to put away, or to cope with. This big combination of things came
Yeah.
and I hit a very low spot. I don't remember the particular day, but um, I was in between towns, so I knew I had no other option to continue to move forward. And I'm actually really glad that I didn't have a side trail to sneak off of and consider,
Mm,
taking a break. I was forced to face it, forced to move through it, and over a number of days, came out better on the end because I was able to reflect on some of those experiences that I talked about, and yeah, it came out better for it. But if I would have had the opportunity to break away, I'm not sure I would have had the same experience that meant growth for me when having to face those things. Mhm.
so having to face those things, like, what's the scoop on your thoughts of what happens to the mind during isolation, right? Revisiting those
Mm.
events, or you know did the trial force you to confront yourself? When you're out there and it's just you and your thoughts.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I look at 3 words that are often, conflated or mixed up: isolation, solitude, and loneliness. So
Yeah,
for
what's the
me,
scoop on that? Yeah,
yeah.
I'm leaning, I'm leaning in for this one.
So for me, isolation is a place where people put you when you don't feel accepted, when people choose not to include you, when people choose to exclude you, when you are isolated. Um, that's my especially when we're talking about, people. Loneliness is that feeling, when you're alone or you're not around people. Sometimes I've been most lonely in my life when I'm around a bunch of people that I don't feel I'm connected with, that I don't feel value me, that I don't feel understand me. Even if there's a lot of, I can still be lonely. Solitude, on the other hand, that being alone, that opportunity to, I recharge in solitude. When I have the opportunity to step away from daily life, sit with my thoughts, whether those are great thoughts or challenges that I'm facing at that time. Solitude is where I go to do my best reflecting, my best thinking, probably experience my best growth in solitude. And the trail offered me that. Um, the trail also, again, because, overwhelmingly great experience out there. Those times when I was, those things from my past were revisiting me, I got to look at them differently and think about them differently because I had no one else to talk to. Again, I had no distractions. I had no cell network. I had, me and my thoughts. And for the first time in my life while I was out there, I had the opportunity to let all of my thoughts play out without distraction or without interruption. And I was able to see some of those difficult events downrange differently and realize I did my best in all of those experiences where we lost lives or other challenging things. There's nothing that I could have done differently. There's nothing anyone could have done differently. And as insensitive as it may sound to some people, the only person that I was hurting was myself by holding on to those things.
Got you.
And for some folks,
Uh,
when they choose to hold on to things that were out of their control and they did their best, they did everything they could, sometimes in one person's view, the only people that they're hurting is themselves. So sometimes they just got to, and that stretch of the trail that I just described allowed me the opportunity to think about things and to let some things go. I hope that answered your question.
oh no, it did. Letting things go is like 5 million steps, healing one step at a time.
Mhm.
Is that okay? Let me get to this part in life or in journey. You know what I'm saying? That's why I say
Yeah.
I like to equate it, or I'm a person of analogy. Like, man, 5 million steps. Like, what happened if you was told, hey, you have 5 million minutes left on this earth, or 5 million hours? What did the trail teach you about yourself? Because healing one step at a time, you have to dig in and address the root cause of a lot of things. I know I had to dig in for myself
Mhm.
and address some of the root issues and not just deal with the surface level,
Mhm.
right? Because the face comes on, the smiles, everybody see the surface, but the internal, that
Yeah.
healing.
Yeah. I think it was a recognition and the things that we're told many times in therapy and when people around us, even those that understand us or have had similar shared experiences. Everybody's journey is their own. Everybody internalizes experiences, whether challenges or good things on their own. And I think I know I realized that for me anyway, um, not only just letting go of some of that stuff, but it's not my responsibility to carry some of these burdens of others. And sometimes it's okay because a lot of the things, to our talk earlier, I carried a lot inside because I didn't want to share some of those things. I didn't want to burden others with my problems. I didn't want to burden others with my experiences. I wanted to shelter my sons from bad things in the world. So I didn't want to share with them some of those experiences. I didn't want people to feel bad for me. I didn't want to look weak as a leader.
Hmm. Yeah.
In the military, I didn't want to lose my security clearance. I didn't want to lose my authority to carry firearms.
Right.
Didn't
Yep.
want to do a lot of things. And I realized out there that although I couldn't change the past, we're all people. We all have things going on. When we carry these burdens, we don't give others the opportunity to help us. We don't give others the opportunity to understand why we're behaving a certain way. Not that it gives our behavior an excuse, but when we don't share these things with others, they're not going to understand who we are, where we're coming from, why we are that way. Um, so letting go of a lot of those things while I was out there was great for me, and certainly beneficial, and would highly recommend to others as well. As difficult as, or as easy as I make it sound, and as difficult as it may be,
Mm.
just letting go of some of that stuff was very helpful for me.
One of the things I took away from the book is having a simplistic life, like having things simple, right? Like, why do you think, or what's the scoop on? Do you think some stuff gets overcomplicated? Because I know you wrote in the book, you met one of your good friends, I call him now Ace, right? And he like Ace, like the bandage, no Ace, and he explained what Ace meant, right? All you can eat, right? So, um, and to me, that's like simple, right? Like, oh, nah, let's you get on this trail. It'd be great when somebody gives you a call sign, right? And then it leads into the story on like, hey, how did you get that call sign? Simplicity, right? Like, how did you get Ace? Oh man, yeah, I used to eat pizzas and stuff like that. So do you think people overcomplicate stuff? Because I know when you was on the trail, you came across a lot of simplistic things. Like, wow, that makes sense. You're muted. There we go.
Okay, my bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, we and I shouldn't say we. Some of us sometimes have a tendency to overcomplicate things in everyday life. The opportunity I had to really understand and embrace simplicity on the trail is I carried, less than 40 things in my pack.
Hmm.
Those things carried me. If I didn't need something, I didn't keep it. I would send it home. Or if I had things, I had everything I needed, nothing that I didn't need. And that's what worked for me. The things that I had in my pack might not be the same things that others had. That wasn't my concern because, again, hike your own hike. I'm not comparing myself to others. I had what worked
Right.
for me. When I reflected on simplicity out on the trail, it went far beyond the things I was carrying. It came down to the way we work. We can overcomplicate a process. We can overcomplicate a problem we're trying to solve as a leader. Real easy. Simplicity in relationships. Those people that are in our lives that bring nothing but negativity and drama, I've had no choice and I feel better because some of those folks I've had to cut out of my life to keep things simple because
Hmm.
that makes me feel better. I don't have to, continue to carry that burden of whatever complex bringing into my life. So when I viewed simplicity on the trail, it was also, I would wake up, life was simple. I would enjoy coffee. I would enjoy breakfast. I would walk
Yeah.
as simple as it gets with the stuff that I had. I would stop when I wanted to, look at what I wanted to, walk again, next day, repeat. And I carry that with me now too, because that simple life that I led out there for 5 months um, has application across so many things. The things that we consume, the things that we allow to come into our house, so many relationships, all of those things. Simplicity was one of the biggest things that I learned about and walked away from that experience that has so many different applications. We could have an entire show on just that.
Right.
Yeah.
The simple life. And one thing, I haven't went on a trail yet.
Mhm.
So I say yet, but I know sometimes when I walk in the park, I like to hear nature, right? The chirping of the birds, the wind blowing through.
Mhm.
Did that bring anything to your memory when you was walking through, like pulling back into your childhood? Like, man, when I was young, I used to do this,
Yeah,
or how did that clarity come back to you when you just walking
yeah.
through this listening to nature?
Yeah, similar to the, the solitude I talked about. That's
Mm,
what brought me back. My place to go when I was a young kid to get away from, some of the things that were going on at home was going into the woods. I grew up on a place called Woodby Island. Beautiful place, awesome place to grow up, nature everywhere. So I was always within just a few minutes walk or bike ride to a place where I would go. And I remember to get that quiet as a kid, I would go and I would sit somewhere. And it's interesting. I've done this with my kids, my sons too, when they were much younger. They probably don't remember now, but I just remember even as far back as I can remember, I would go someplace in the woods, in a park, near the ocean, on the beach. And I would sit there and I would close my eyes and I would try
mm,
to identify and I would count how many different things I would hear: the wind, the waves, birds,
wow,
things fall, pine cone falling off a tree,
right.
water rushing, anything like that. And that would, bring me that inner peace, that little bit of calm. So to be out and away, truly out in nature, I would still do that sometimes. And you're right, it would bring me back. It would center me. Like, okay. And I still do it now. Uh, if, I'm having a particularly stressful day, I'll just relax, let those things go, take a walk outside, go outside, and I'll listen to how many things can I hear. And that takes my mind off, for me anyway, takes my mind off whatever is going on, recenters me, and allows me to move forward and hopefully think better thoughts or make better decisions.
Making better decisions. 5 million steps. And I keep going back to your book, 5 million steps. Like, what did this like ultimately lead you toward? Like, what did you discover after did the steps? You said I'm gonna put it in the book.
Mhm.
Your son say, "Hey, Dad, I want you to record it. We need the YouTube channel so we could be on this journey with you."
Yeah,
What did you discover going through the PCT trail?
yeah. So the PCT trip too, there were some similarities. The things that I missed about, like the thing that strikes me the most when you ask that question, the things that I enjoyed most about the service, I also enjoyed on the trail.
Mm,
What I'm talking about is connection. When I stood up on stage at my retirement ceremony, the narrator, read off, my accomplishments over my career. They read that, the last decoration that I received before retiring. My commander got up and said some wonderful things. He had put a lot of time, and I appreciated the effort. As I'm listening to these things, I wasn't thinking about the accomplishments. I wasn't thinking about those things themselves. I was thinking about the people that I shared that experience with, the people that I celebrated the ups and downs with throughout my time in the service. I saw faces and I remember those experiences. I remember those moments when people gave me a chance, when I paid that forward later on and I gave others a chance, when I celebrated
yeah,
kids' birthdays, when I got to put my arm around somebody when they're having a hard time, when I got to pick somebody up,
yeah,
dust them off, tell them it's okay, and we're going to move this, we're going to move forward together. All of those things that I knew I was going to miss. And then I realized shortly after getting on the trail that, hey, this is a different group of people that I would have never had the opportunity to cross paths with in my military life, but a
wow,
lot of it's the same. I got to meet people from all over the world, from different backgrounds, just like in the military. And the best part of my whole journey was the people I got to share it with. It was great.
yeah,
So that's really what I walk away from with that journey, which led to the book. My son, the same one
yeah.
that recommended the YouTube channel or asked me to do it, throughout a conversation about writing a book, I was like, "Hey, bud, help me through this. What would it be about?" He's like, "Okay, Dad, what were the best parts of the trail? What were the hardest parts of the trail? What are the best memories and the challenges and all that that you had?" I said, "Okay, then what? Okay, and what did that make you think about in life? in your time in the Air Force, in your time as a kid. Again, good times and bad times. I was like, okay, then what? He's like, why would it be important for somebody to know these things? And what differences make? I was like, okay, cool. So that journey of writing the book was, it just turned out to be 17 different things. Those things just filled in to turn into
Yeah.
chapters. And what I've learned, to your question, is the book is about connection. The things I was most hesitant to share in there, that some of the things that maybe I was a little bit embarrassed or were hiding from others. Brother, those are the things that have been the most resonant with folks. Because even though our experiences might be a little bit different, we all have struggles. We all have good times in life. We all have bad times in life. And to connect with folks as an airman, as a fellow hiker, and now as an author it's been a pretty awesome ride, man.
Wow. And that's where it comes down to purpose, legacy, and your next mission beyond the finish line, right? Because a lot of times, like, hey, man, just get, remember, I told you about my finish line. Hey, man, just get to the finish line. Just get to the finish line. Now we're beyond the finish line.
Yeah.
How you think this journey has changed you permanently? Like, where are you now? Like, I know you share what you're doing now for
Mhm,
organization companies, but where are you as a person? Where is Jay now? We'll just say 35 years later.
mhm. Yeah. I would say much more grounded because of
Mm,
many the things that we talked about today and many other experiences I had out there. I'm better with boundaries. There are so
yes.
many things that I am absolutely unwilling to take on. There are
Mm,
things that I am unwilling to negotiate on. There are things, boundaries, that I have set to stay true to myself. And this isn't necessarily a bad thing, but the mantras that we hear in the military, get the mission done at all cost. I let service before self turn, my misinterpretation of that turned into service before self, service instead of self. I did a really bad job of taking care of myself in the service of others. I look at things differently now too, in the matter of I have to take care of myself and do the things that I enjoy and recharge me to better serve others, to be a better husband, to be a better father, to be a better member of the community, to be better at the
wow.
things that I choose to do now. So, man, I'll tell you, in that 5 months, there were so many things that I learned. That every single day, there is something that I reflect on, that I picked up out on there, that, hey, I'm not perfect in any way. Even
Mm,
some of those things that I learned about myself that I have changed, again, those boundaries, those other things I already mentioned, there's still some work in progress things that revisiting my experiences in simplicity and all those other things on the trail allows me to center myself, because I have slipped a couple times since retiring. I have, broken some of those boundaries with work and things like that. But when I refocus, reflect on that experience, recenter myself, I make better decisions, not only for me, but those around me, I hope.
wow. And thank you for that. Cause I was gonna ask you or your perspective, well, what's the scoop on, you have somebody that's going in that transition phase
Mhm.
and trying to rediscover their purpose, right? And this is out, in the military community, veteran community, but even somebody that's moving from one neighborhood to the next
Yeah.
to rediscover purpose. So going from one job to the next, because as you know, sometimes you grow, and then sometimes you get to a place of where this is the furthest I could go. Let me, you know, rediscover myself and maybe move on to something else. Where should they begin?
They should begin with themselves. What
Mm,
values do they hold? What are some of the things that they are no longer willing to do now that maybe we had to do at some phase in life?
got you.
Because sometimes when we talk about purpose, we talk about fulfillment, it takes work to get there. You have to build a foundation of hard times and maybe some work that you don't want to do to set that foundation or that launch pad to get to where you want to go. And sometimes when you get to that destination, you learn that, you know what? This
Hmm.
isn't for me.
Yeah.
It's okay. When I talk to transitioning veterans, it's okay to change your mind. It's okay to break away from that mission at all costs. It's okay to break away from we will not fail. Well, if you fail in something and you learn, okay, that's growth. Move
Right.
on to something else. It's okay to change your mind. I have lots of brothers and sisters who transitioned, jumped right into the first thing. Some of them had to. I understand that. They jumped into that first thing and found themselves miserable 6 months later. Okay.
Mhm.
Work to change, work to move on to something else. Sometimes people become very successful post military and realize that they're working too hard. For what? I don't need to do this anymore. So let me back off a little bit. That's going to be different for everybody. So, I wish I had a piece of advice to your question, but there's so many variables in there. And that's what makes it everybody's individual journey and things they're going to have to figure out. Not be embarrassed to try, not be embarrassed to change your mind, not be embarrassed or hesitate to say, no, I'm not doing that.
Right. And that's, man, that's huge because in your book, you ran across a fellow hiker.
Hmm.
And this way you was referred to hike your own hike, right? Because he was a newbie, right? So he had all the gear that you see. He had flip flops and all this stuff. Like, man, you're not there. But what's something people don't realize that they're capable of, and how do they unlock? Because I know you had a conversation with them, like, "Hey, bro, it's okay, but you're here. You're
Hmm.
doing it now.
Hmm.
You didn't know what you just went off of what you seen on TV or you seen what somebody else said, but now you're here. You're on the trail. You see that you don't need these things. Let's lighten your load
Yeah.
because you're carrying too much. How do they
Hmm.
unlock that? How do I unlock that in like you're capable of doing this, of moving forward?
Yeah. I think that comes down to a lot of it's having, mentors, looking at examples, asking questions, building that network. That's the first place my mind went when you asked that. Because we talked about comparisons. Specific to transitioning veterans, I caution them on seeing someone or a group of people, even if you've known them for a long time, see what they post on social media and say, that's what I need to do. I want to get some of that without the full understanding of what goes behind that, what goes behind the optic that you see.
Mm,
Yes, it might be success, but at what cost? So the reason why I brought that mentorship piece up is ask the hard questions. If you see something that you think is interesting, that you want to explore, talk to somebody that's in there. But that requires you to build a network. Building a
mm,
strong network takes time, moving at the speed of trust, moving at the speed of connection. Because oftentimes I'll have someone, and I know a lot of folks that are mutual friends as well. Folks will just reach out to them out of the blue, and a lot of times they're they're coming from a place of goodness, and they legitimately want to learn from you. Some people, it's like, hey, what can you do for me? Or hey, I need this from you. Well, man, I haven't heard from you in 2 years. Why you only hit me up when you need something? But when you build that authentic relationship and connection with someone, you build that trust, you're going to find, because people see things in you that maybe you don't see in yourself. When
mm,
you reach out to have these talks about what it's like to live in their world, your view of success, when they share with you the challenges, the sacrifice, and all that comes along with that, it's good to have that conversation too. But they might also say, hey, you know what? I see this in you. Have you thought about this? So I think mentorship is very important on that journey that you talked about. Um, and just that, going back to that simplicity, where I started was understanding what I needed to do to achieve the lifestyle that I wanted. I measure my wealth in time and experiences with the people I love.
Oh,
Now I could go out and just, work my tail off doing things. And I did that for a little bit that would take me away from those experiences and time with the people that I love. But establishing what works for you, which is going to be different than others. Again, I'll go
yes.
back to that caution on social media, caution on comparisons, because what you think you see on the thing people portray
Right,
might only be
right,
part of the truth. You might not
right.
understand what they're sacrificing and what they're putting into that. And it also might be the best 10 seconds of their day, and the rest of it might just be absolute misery. So, uh, building that network and talking to others. I hope I answered that question.
No, you did. And as we wrap up, I love this scoop question right here. Like, I like you to finish this sentence right here. No matter how long the journey, blank, blank, blank.
Make it your own
Make it your own.
because
Why
if
is
it,
that personal?
yeah, because I go back to that comparison piece.
Mm,
You have to be happy with yourself. You have to be happy with the decisions you make. You have to be happy with the things you take on after your career. You have to be happy for the things you accomplished in your service. If you look back at those things that you didn't achieve, if you didn't get that position, if you didn't get that promotion, that's over.
mhm,
If you look at what someone else has, wishing you had that, that's robbing yourself of your joy. What's important to you? Your journey is your own. So finishing that sentence, that journey has to be your own.
mm. And my journey with the 5 million steps by renowned author Jason Franz. These are so remember I shared with you I like to go in the book and put kings into the book. And these are the things I came away with as to show you how your book resonated with me. And I know we're going to speak on how others could get a copy so they could lock in and see how it runs parallel with their world. But here's some of the things that I jotted down what resonated with me. And I'm going to ask you to share with the audience what I shared with you prior to we hit record. Disease does not line up with what I talked about. You ready?
Mhm.
Here it comes, Jay. Time healing looks like the next step. The trail strips away everything except truth. Transition, its own wilderness. 5 million steps change more than my location. Purpose doesn't end when service does. The hardest journey is often internal. The uniform comes off, but service never leaves you. Growth lives beyond comfort. Every step forward is a proof you didn't quit. And sometimes you find yourself by getting completely lost first.
Brother. When is your book coming out?
I I just want to thank you on behalf of the listeners and audience out there. Like I said, when I did the deep dive, those locked in with me and I shared, and that's why I like to share my story because I want you to know how much this book runs parallel and how now I'm going to use it to keep my journey moving forward, right? My orange light came on, my gas tank, right? Like I needed that fuel up. I pulled up into the gas station. Guess what I got? That 5 million step octane filled up. No, I got my copy. How can they get their copy?
Best way, brother, to get copies of this, I have it on Amazon. The paperback copy is available on Amazon. I narrated the Audible version that's available on Audible, and the Kindle version is also available, all searchable on Amazon.
How can they get in contact with you if they want to connect with you, or just, have you come on and talk about the 5 million steps for their audience?
I am easily Googleable. um, Best way to connect with me is through LinkedIn. That is probably the best platform. You'll see Jason France. I pop up really quick. If you put U.S. Air Force in the search bar too, you'll see it'll come up. And I would love to connect with your audience. Anybody listening right now, please feel free to reach out to me. Please feel free if something resonated with you in the book that you want to talk about, something that you're going through, let's chat. Please reach out if there's something that I can do or I can share with you to help, especially our veteran community and our military community.
I appreciate it. And guess what, y'all? I reached out to Jason when I was I'm at 4.6 million steps. So I reached out to him at that journey in my life when I'm on day 276 of walking at least 12,500 steps a day. But I'm at 4 million right now.
Brother, I'm
It's a long
excited for
journey.
you. I'm excited to hear when you hit that 5 million mark. And
I'm
you
gonna hit you
gotta
up,
hit
man.
me up, man.
I'm gonna hit you up. I'm gonna send the Garmin.
It's
I'm gonna
coming.
send the Garmin snapshot of like, hey, I'm here. I'm
Yeah.
here. I'm
Yeah.
here.
Well, I hope we can connect so I can ask you some questions about
I
your
can't wait,
journey
man.
of 5 million steps, man. I'm serious.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. And to all our listeners out there, veteran supporters, military supporters, and people breathing air. You don't have to drown in a sea of transition. You grab that VET S.O.S. Lifeline. We're here to help. Reach out to Jason. Definitely get a copy of 5 million steps. You might be at step 1. You might be at step 1,000, a million, or 4,999,99. When you hit that 5 million, it's going to unlock a new cheat code. Until next time, everybody, take care. Peace.